Hi guys, I'm Steph from Bracken and Birch, and I'm just going to spend the next 20 minutes making a lovely little Christmas wreath for my home, and hopefully it will inspire you guys to get making it as well at home. I am really passionate about foraging, getting out into nature, collecting bits and pieces and bringing them into your home. It's a passion that I've discovered this year, really because of lockdown and having to be at home a lot more. I have a little 2-year-old, and it's something that we can do together. We can get out, get a bit of fresh air, some exercise, and then we can come home and get creative. I'd love to encourage you to do that this winter. This Christmas can feel like a long old slog. Like maybe you've been used to just getting out and about, seeing a lot more people, having parties, all that kind of stuff. It can feel a bit joyless, but there are joys to be found in simple pleasures like gathering natural materials, coming home, having an afternoon, maybe with a glass of wine, and making something beautiful for your home. I think it's interesting too that Christmas is going to be centered around the home so much more this year, and so there's all the more reason to make it a beautiful space. And you can do it really inexpensively. I'm going to take you through what I have here today to make my wreath and what you can use at home. So obviously the first thing that you're going to need is something to actually use as your base for your wreath. I have ordered this one from Hobby Lobby. You can just get those delivered to your home, really inexpensive. I think this one was £2 or £3. It's quite small, but if you saw my kitchen right now, it's coming down with woodlandy things. That was very much my theme this Christmas, was woodland, and so I didn't need anything too big to add to my kitchen decor. This is the perfect size to just sit on a wall or on a shelf. You can get bigger. You could use a metal frame, you could use a hoop, or like we did it in Halloween. If you followed along with me then, I made an autumnal woodland wreath, and I just used a coat hanger, so you can use one of those as well. I like to use this when I'm doing Christmas wreaths because I find it just a little bit bulkier for adding my foliage to, and I normally like a quite boho-y wreath that's not maybe full the whole way around, but this one today is going to be foliage the whole way around, traditional. There's one time that I am really traditional, and it's Christmas, so lots of greens, lots of reds, lots of berries and holly and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you what I've gathered to make our wreath today. Well, to start off with then, the very base of your wreath, you need your greenery, what's going to form the bulk of your wreath. So I've got 2 materials really, and I'll show you them here. I've been out and about and taken a few snips from just a local park that had nice evergreen trees, and these have dried out nicely, so that's probably the way that they're going to look now for the duration of my wreath being up. A couple of snips of this just for underneath, and then I've also got up into the forests and got some fir, cut a few pieces of this. Just a word of warning to the wise, this stuff is dangerous. If you grab it, you probably will prick your fingers and draw blood. So be careful, push the little pine needles up whenever you're going to hold it, and just be careful whenever you're handling it, but it is going to be beautiful. It smells gorgeous, and it's going to really look very Christmassy. Apart from that then, I've got some heather that I've taken from the boglands. I've got some berries. I cheated with those. I actually bought those as stalks in Tesco's, but if you've got berries in a garden, go for it. Our berries are looking a little bit worse for wear because we've got some very hungry birds flying around Bridgend at the moment. We've got some holly there that I gathered in the forest, and then pine cones that I've just gathered over the years from walks and all that kind of thing. Now, I want to show you these, as well as the greens and the reds of the berries and the pine cones. Those are very natural colours. I love using oranges at Christmas time. I think it's just a beautiful pop of colour. To make these little slices of oranges, what I've done is I've got 3 big oranges, chopped them about a centimetre in width, stuck them in the oven for 1 hour at 120 degrees and just turned them over every so often. And what you'll find is they should come out a really nice golden colour, and some of them will have this little, I'll show you this one, some of them will come out with a little bit of kind of like burnt almost looking, but that's okay. I quite like that. Now if you want all of yours to look perfectly uniform, definitely take more care, but I quite like a little bit of deeper colour coming through some of them. It just gives a little bit of differentiation and also a little bit of texture, and I like that. And then I've got these cinnamon sticks. I picked these up in the range, but you could probably get them at Tesco's if you weren't venturing too far. Apart from that, the only other things that I have are these little jingle bells that I picked up in a little craft store, but you can actually get some, I think I've got some hanging here, and these berries that were from Tesco's that are meant to be for decorations for the tree, but if you cut the cord off those, they would work perfectly. And some ribbon, and my goodness, you can get ribbon everywhere this time of year. I think I've picked that up in the range and really inexpensive. So everything all in, I mean, you're talking a couple of pounds. It's not very expensive. You obviously can customize this however you prefer. So if you were making a wreath for yourself at home and you thought my theme is sparkle or my theme is frosted white, then by all means go for something, little decorations that you find that are in keeping with your theme. You can get baubles and attach them, and really this is about making something that reflects you, your home, and the feel of your home this Christmas. It's about celebrating the elements outside for sure, but ultimately it has to live inside, so it should be something that reflects you and your home. So let's get going. Okay, things that I find really handy whenever I'm starting off to make a wreath is to just pre-cut a bunch of lengths of twine. You use this for everything, for attaching your foliage, for attaching even your jingle bells and your oranges and all that kind of stuff. So I've cut about 20 lengths there. I might need more, but that'll get me started, and it just means I don't have to keep stopping to cut. You'll need a pair of scissors, and if you are using something like the fir with a little bit of a kind of thicker stalk on it, some secateurs just to chop that up as well. So, to start your wreath, you're going to need to really form the basis of your bulk, and it's going to be green and full. So we're going to start with sort of the thing that I think is the easiest manipulated, which is this, the evergreen. And I'm just going to place it around the outside and tie it on as I go. And if you're doing it along with me at home, go for it. I've got the very basic kind of outline of my wreath here now, and you'll see there's little bits kind of hanging off. Don't worry so much about those just yet. I'm going to add my fir, and when I do, I'll begin to see the shape of it take kind of like form more, and the bits that kind of feel odd and out of place, I'll just snip off. But don't do it yet, because you might find that actually they add a little bit of interest to the sides and maybe they fill a gap. So I'll keep going and add some fir. Up with after a while something that looks a bit like this, where there's a lot going on in the center, and really I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and snip some of those pieces off. The center doesn't really need to be, you know, filled. The kind of wreath, the whole premise is that it's sort of a circle, and it should be hollow in the middle. I'll show you this one. I don't mind a little bit of detail in the middle, but I don't want it to be overcrowded, so I'm going to go ahead and just snip some of those pieces off. That looks pretty good to me. Now, from time to time, what I'll do is just pop my wreath against a blank surface, something like this, just to help me see what it's going to look like against a wall, and I really like the shape of that. I think it's good and full, not too messy, but not too symmetrical. Well behaved, but not boring. I like it. So, next what I'm going to do then, after I've added my greenery, is try and add a little bit of texture, but still with foraged materials. So what I have is some ivy that I've just picked up at the local forest, and I'm going to really only use the flowers, not so much the long leaves. And what you want to do whenever you're adding flowers like this or foliage like this is strip the stalk at the bottom so you can weave that in. It just helps it hold together a little bit better. So I'm going to build a little bit into this and tie the top of it on, and then we'll see what we're doing after that. happy with this. I've got the kind of pop of a lighter colour coming through from the flowers of the ivy, and then some leaf detail around the sides. And again, try and think about placement, so not just so random, but I've tried to even it out on either side. I don't want it to look exactly the same on either side, but I definitely wanted to have some element of symmetry to it. Now that I've got that colour in there, the light colour, the dark colour, and the deeper even colour of the evergreen tree underneath popping through, what I want to start thinking about is adding more texture to it. I've got this lovely heather that I've collected on the bog, and it's really warm. It's much warmer than anything that I've got on here so far. It's almost like a kind of pinky biscuit colour. So I think a little bit of that throughout it would just warm it up a little bit, so I'm going to get busy with sticking some of this on. Placement of that. Again, it's not completely symmetrical, but it's just mirroring that kind of idea of a little sprig here, a little sprig there, the leaves here, the leaves there, the light colour coming through on either side as well. So it's not, I don't want it to look like overly fussy, but I want it to look a little bit wild, but just, you know, not crazy. So this really is the very base of my wreath. Now you decorate it once you've got those lovely woodlandy natural tones and textures coming through. And this is the fun part, but it's also kind of the easy part. This stuff is hard to handle. The other stuff's a little bit easier to manipulate, to be honest. It's just deciding what to put on, and there's so much that it's hard to know. Mine is going to be quite small, so I can't plaster too much over it. If you had a really big wreath, you could go wild, you could put as much on it as you want. I think I'm going to probably, much like this one, centre mine around the bottom and just make a little pop of detail, and we'll see what we come up with. So probably the next thing I want to pop on is some pine cones. They're the next sort of bulky thing. A couple of these would be lovely just throughout it. Maybe I will go the whole way around it with these. The trick with the pine cones, to just get them to attach nice and easy, is to actually put your string in amongst the little individual pieces of the pine cone. And it's a little bit fiddly, but if you persevere, you can kind of squeeze your twine through and tie it on the end, and you'll have something that's ready to just attach to your wreath rather than trying to do it whenever you're attaching it. So that's the way forward with these. I'll pop a couple on and see how we get on. Okay, I have attached my pine cones. I think I'm going to leave a gap here because I want to have like a real decorative element down at the bottom, but I really am happy with what's kind of showing through at the moment. The pine cones, the warm tones, the cool tones, the different elements of green. This is a really full and gorgeous wreath. So next thing I want to do is add some sort of interesting pop of colour. Now we've got berries, they're so beautiful. There's nothing that says Christmas to me like red and green, just really traditional, really beautiful. I have these ones from Tesco's and they're so easy to use. Chop them up, they're quite sturdy, and just pop them in. It's just deciding where to place them and tying them on with some twine. Easy peasy, get going. I'm really happy about that. I think it's good and full and very traditional looking. Again, just placing it against this to kind of get an idea of what it will look like against a wall. It's really pretty. So the only thing left to do now is to really put that pop, that exciting element that I'm going to put right in the centre of my wreath, right at the bottom. To do that, I'm going to do sort of similar to what I've done here in this wreath with my oranges. Rather than just putting one orange and placing them around the place, I like to group them together, a couple, make a little cluster, and then attach a cinnamon stick. And it just makes for a really pretty kind of just obvious focal point for your wreath. So I will show you how to do that. It's really easy. I don't know if you can see here against my hand, but I've just popped 2 holes using my scissors, or you could use a pen just through this, and do the same with your other one. And then get a bit of string and pop it through both pieces of orange. So they're sort of stacked one on top of the other. I think it's just nice sometimes to have a cluster rather than just 1 or 2 darted around. Once you've done that, you'll have something looking like this. Lovely. And then if your little loop that's left on this side, pull it loose, pop your cinnamon stick in through it, and then pull it taut, and that should keep that together for you. Tie it at the back before attaching it to your wreath. Pleased with this. I think it's gorgeous. You'll see on my one that I made just earlier that I've attached some ribbon to the bottom. I don't think this one needs that actually. I think what I'll do instead is make the ribbon at the top the interesting bit. I just attached a bit of twine to the top of that because the detail of the ribbon was at the bottom, but I think this one needs a good big ribbon on top to finish it off. So we'll get going with that. Now, a little tip for you that I just learned this week, and I hope it works for me because my scissors are covered in orange, so they're probably not the sharpest. But if you half your ribbon like this, fold it in half, and then take your scissors and cut it at an angle. Your angle is going to go down towards the outside of your ribbon, not the fold. Then what you should end up with, if my scissors will cut through, is a nice little pointed, not the best example because my scissors are so blunt, but if you do with a good sharp pair, you'll have a nice little pointy bit at the end of your ribbon, and it's just a nice extra little detail rather than just having a flat edge. It's all about the details. There we go, that's a bit of a better example. Lovely. There you go guys, I am really chuffed with this. I think it looks super traditional, really festive. It's a celebration of the season and nature, bringing the outside in. And it's also just really pretty. I'm going to hang this up and show you guys what it looks like hanging up. Well guys, I really hope that whatever you put your hand to this Christmas, it's gorgeous, that you really enjoy it, that you get time to get outside and get about, but you get time to be creative. More than anything, I really hope that this Christmas you have a peace-filled and joy-filled time. From my house to yours, Merry Christmas.
Ho, 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 ho.